And we are live, everybody. Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Is Friday. I mean, gosh, it's hard to believe, right? The last Friday of May,
Time
Jose. How'd
is
that happen?
flying.
This year, yeah, just whoosh, right? And it's been interesting here, too, because things are kind of getting back to normal in Colorado. There's lots of places where you don't have to wear a mask now, but there's still the outliers. So I took my dog to the vet yesterday, and they have this whole procedure where you sit in your car and they come out and everything else. I'm like, well, can I come in now? They're like, nope. I'm thinking they just like it, right? They like you not coming in and milling all over the place. That's my theory.
So you cannot see if they are mistreating the dog.
They're in there smoking cigarettes, and they got vodka. Should we help that guy? Yeah, we'll give it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But
you're right.
I digress. This is actually about food safety. Right? It's not about pet safety. So I am Bryan Armentrout with the Food Safety Foundation, of course, with my good friend Jose Sabal from Sabal Food Safety Consulting. Hope your day is going well, everybody. I know ours are off to a good start here. Beautiful weather here in Colorado. How's things looking out there in Florida?
This is kind of the third day that we're reaching close to freezing conditions as defined in South Florida, which is 70 degrees. This morning was 72.
Okay. And you're going for a sleeve shirt. Look at you. You're brave man. Or you're not going outside today or something. I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
One of the fun things with these chats that we have is that we pick a topic and we discuss it, right? This is not a presentation. This is a discussion. And the more involvement we get from people who are watching this live, the more fun it is. So please chime in here in the chat. Let us know where you're from. Ask questions. Share things that have worked for you, because with food safety, it's not a point of competition. And the better everyone is, the better we all are, right? And we get those recalls down and we get consumer trust up and everybody benefits, right? So that's what we want. So chime in here and let us know where you're from. So interesting topic today, Jose. What's our topic today?
Well, our topic today is actually something that I was just talking about in my chat with these guys in Spain.
Mm-hmm.
It's about documentation as a general approach. Documentation,
yes.
How to keep the documents, how to maintain the proper documents, and so on.
Interesting. So as part of our procedures that we document, we drink our beverage.
Oh, so, yes. Oh, yes.
See, I almost forgot. So everybody, please join Jose and I have my coffee. Jose has his tea. And join us for a beverage sip with us here in the morning.
You know what I'm finding quite strange, Bryan, that I'm watching at the same time LinkedIn, and I do not see that, look, like in any other chat that we had, oh, Bryan is live right now. It's not showing up.
Oh, you know what I think what it is? It's on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope, Twitter. I don't see it on. I wonder if something happened with LinkedIn. Let me try here.
Okay.
And we'll see if we can connect up with our friends on LinkedIn. Can you see us on LinkedIn? I got a little check mark up there by the symbol now. So let's see if this works.
Okay.
Yeah, because we definitely want our friends on LinkedIn. It's not a show without them.
And you know that as your, well, I'm going to say invited to this chat, do you know that I can see the comments, but I cannot add my comment on my side?
Interesting.
That's weird. Yeah.
So I don't think I have to give you permission or anything.
I don't think so. Well, I don't know how that works, but
no, I can kick you out.
Okay, now it showed up.
Okay, so we just had a little bit of latency there. Okay, excellent. Excellent.
Yes.
So we'll just keep going, because if I end the broadcast, it ends the broadcast and the link's not good anymore. So we're just going to keep going, Jose. So everybody, thank you for joining us. A little bit of a technical difficulty, right? It's the internet. Technical stuff happens all the time. So we are talking about an area that is super important that often gets overlooked in your quality systems: document control, right? And record retention. And really what we're going to touch on, if we swing around this to the end, Jose, is how this fits into your systems. Super important. And we'll look at this in those 3 different segments, if that works for you. So we'll dive into document control first. So it's very interesting with document control, right? The rule here is always going to be, you're going to inherit someone else's stuff, right? You're never going to come to a brand new company where they say, okay, Jose, here you are, you're the new quality manager, write our quality system and we'll all love it and follow it. Nope. You end up with a collection of stuff that has evolved over the years and problems in the past that nobody even remembers. So they put a procedure in because they had a customer complaint and they still keep doing it and nobody knows why, right? It's just this collection of stuff. Constance
Yes.
joined. Oh, awesome. Daniel's here too. Constance, she's so awesome. I'm glad she's here. But yeah, it ends up with this crazy mess. And I actually revised quality systems, Jose, in 5 different companies. So, big companies. And here's the interesting thing. I ended up getting rid of about 60% of the documentation in the companies. Because
I'm not going to be surprised.
Yeah, it was not providing any value. There's this fake view in quality systems and documents and these type of things, is that more is better. And actually the opposite is true, right?
No.
Creating a simple, elegant quality system that meets the needs of the plant and the employees and everybody else first, right? And then regulatory and auditors is really, really hard. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of focus. So today I wanted to kind of dive in and get your impressions, right, of what you've seen with your auditor hat and these type of things relative to document systems. So what's very interesting is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine. Bryan, so like always, I'm going to start with the requirements.
Yes.
So let me go back to the basics. In the law, in the United States, by the way, okay, so all of you guys, from other countries, maybe your country is different. But in the United States, if we go to the law, not regulations, law above the regulations, okay? The law defines which things in the food, in the food industry, which things are prohibited acts. And you're going to find, not with a surprise, but receiving adulterated products is a prohibited act.
Yes.
Manufacturing under insanitary conditions is a prohibited act because your products are going to get adulterated at some point. Shipping adulterated products is a prohibited act. But you know what? In that same section, which is actually huge, there are 2 specific things regarding records that are prohibited acts. The first one, the refusal to permit access. I'm reading straight from the law. The refusal to permit access to or copying of any records as required by sections 350A, 350C, all the sections from FISMA, is a prohibited act. Right. Failure to establish or maintain any record or make any report required under those sections is a prohibited act. And the last one says the refusal to permit entry or inspection for the FDA to your facility to check those records or copy those records is a prohibited act.
Absolutely. And recently, people probably think, this never happens. Remember the recent issue with the water company, with the hepatitis, right? So for whatever reason, and I haven't heard the reason yet, people were drinking this water and getting hepatitis, damage to their liver. And FDA went in and asked for records and the company refused. So it happens. It happens. And FDA went public with that and said, we have been promised compliance and working with us, and the company is not operating in good faith and they're not doing blah, 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 right? So Look it up, right? It happens. So your quality system is extremely important, right? And we hear, Jose, FDA talk about this time and time and time again when they do presentations in public. If you didn't document it and we can't see proof,
Does not exist.
You didn't do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you need to think in those terms. Now, within that law and those regulations that you pulled out there, good morning, Cheryl and Brian. Nice to see your faces this morning. So part of this, right, is super important, right? So what FDA is saying here, here's the scope, here's the rules of the game, here's what we are allowed to have. And what's very important in that statement, Jose, and I want to make sure people watching this understand this, is FDA has said, we have access to your food safety documentation, records, procedures for food safety.
Yes. Yep. Exactly right.
Not OSHA, not how your HR department operates, all these things out of scope. And within companies, this is a huge, 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 huge problem. I see this all the time, Jose.
Yeah.
They mix everything up because they think it's easier. So the example I use for this is this. You have a recording form on a filling line, right? You got your filler and you're filling up bags and you got the operator and he's doing his things and running the machine. He's doing three things. He is gathering operational information, pounds per man hour, downtime, employee labor usage, the things the plant manager needs to run the plant. Great. We need to collect that information. It's important for them. The next group is food safety. So we'll talk food quality first. So food quality. So do we have the right weight in the package? Is the package aligned correctly? Does it look nice, right? All the things that cause complaints, but no one's ever going to get sick from it. Food quality. And then food safety. So let's say at the end of this line, you've got the metal detector. And the critical control points and the checks for the metal detector are on that form. So as we all know on those forms, lots and lots and lots of information gets put on that form. So if the line is down, the operator is going to write on there for operations, line was down for 4 hours because maintenance was working on the machine and those no good maintenance people made me miss my production target, right? So it's a space where the operator can explain what happened during that shift, right, wrong, or indifferent. Now imagine FDA comes in. They now have the legal right to look at that form because it has food safety stuff on it. So they say, I want that form with the metal detector. Now they're going to look at that entire form and they're going to scan through there. And maybe they look at that downtime and they say, wow, your machine was down for 4 hours? Yeah, it was down that day. Okay. Well, what type of a food safety investigation did you do to make sure there weren't bacteria growing in the machine or toxins were being produced while you were down? I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I'm calling CITSAN. We're going to get some scientists on the phone here and we're going to figure out if you produced adulterated product, right?
Yes.
Don't do that, right? Separate food safety, food quality, separate procedures, separate processes. So when FDA says, I want to see your metal detector log for your prerequisite programs for foreign contamination for metal, you can say, absolutely. Here's my metal detector procedure. Here's my metal detector check log. Here's my hourly checks for the metal detectors. Oh, and here's the corrective action procedure we follow if it doesn't work. And here's how we review this information as part of our quality management system and reporting the data up. Any other questions, Mr. FDA? Nope, looks good. Moving on, right?
Yep.
Don't
exactly right.
Document control, so important. So you have to figure out that scope, right? Of what is my client in this case looking for, and how do I answer that quickly, and then shut up.
Yep. And you know what? Shut up for the right reason, Brian. Shut up because the information provided is going to prove sufficiently that food safety is guaranteed.
Yes. We talk block and tackling all the time, right? We try and get too fancy. Plan, do, check, act. That's what any auditor wants, right? Jose and I, every week, right? We pound on this because it's that important, right? What is your plan? How do you do it? How do you check that you did it? And if it didn't go the way you thought, how do you get back on course? You follow that and you're golden. You're absolutely golden. So scope, super important, right? You have a food safety scope. And to your point, Jose, always start with the regs. Super important. And I'm glad you always do that because you need to understand the rules of the game.
Yeah.
What do they want from me, and how do I show that I did it? That's your scope.
Yes.
There's other scopes, right? There's your FDA scope. There's your SQF, GFSI scope. There's your OSHA scope. There's your all these other things, right? You have to be, and this is an important lesson too, guys. You have to be an absolute pit bull at protecting your quality systems and keeping other stuff out. Because what will happen in the plant is they'll say, oh, well, a system's a system. So let's throw the OSHA stuff in there and let's throw all these other things in there. And you end up with this giant monster that you don't need to control. It's not the responsibility of quality and safety to do that. Right. And that's a hard lesson. And you need to really manage up to do that. And explaining scope is how you do it.
Yep. Actually, you got a very good point, because if we talk about food safety, the scope is defined by the FDA, not by SQF, not by BRC, not by FSSC. What is the scope? And you go back to the law, and it says you need to do whatever it takes to prevent adulteration and misbranding of the food. That is defined by the FDA. That is the scope of that food safety system. Now you have OSHA, fine. You're going to have another scope for that system. Do you want to integrate them? I don't have any problem as a general approach. I don't have any problem if you want to do it. I suggest that you keep them separated. Why? Because as you said, Bryan, the scope is different.
Right. And the reason you want to keep them separate, this is why I advocate so strong for this, is the ownership needs to be in the right place. So if you have a OSHA manager, right, who is taking care of all of your EPA stuff and making sure that people are trained in lockout, tag out, and all those type of things, that's his or her system, not yours, right? So when EPA comes in, or the local health authority comes in, or whoever to do an investigation, I'm going to go talk to him. And they're going to say, okay, show us your procedures for lockout, tag it, and show us your training and things like that. They need to understand and manage their own system. Right? If they come to you and, right, I'm the quality guy, I know a little bit about that stuff, but not as much as they do. They're experts. If they come to me and say, okay, we want to see your OSHA compliance plan, I'm like, well, okay, here it is. You can read it. I don't know anything about it, right? It doesn't make sense, right? You can use the same systems for naming and all of these type of things in creation, but they're different scope and they're different owners. And the plant manager needs to understand that, and everybody on the management team needs to understand that. Quality systems is, and maybe that's where it hurts us, right? We call it quality systems, right? This is systems, right? It's not give everything quality. And I've seen many, many systems where that happens and things get left and they get behind.
Yep, exactly right. Yep. So look at these, Bryan. We already talked about the law. So now we know what is there. So now the FDA is responsible for developing some regulations in order to help people to comply with what is written in the law.
Yes.
And in preventing control for, and I'm going to talk about human food, but there is another section in the animal foods regulation. In the human food, subpart F as in Frank, requirements applying to records that must be established and maintained. And you go there and you're going to find very, very specific requirements. For example, the records must have the name of the company and the address of the company, all of the records.
Yes.
And you may have electronic records and you may have physical records. The FDA says, I'm fine with that. As long as they are fully populated with the right information and signed and dated by the monitor and by the one that is verifying, the reviewer, and so on, the FDA says, I'm fine. But there's some very specific things. Records can only be filled with ink. Records must be legible. And now all of those things are part of the regulation. So it's a must. It's not an option.
Right. And a lot of this comes back to ISO 9001. A lot of the rules that currently exist go back to document control under that standard. And so you see a lot of things coming in, right? So stamping documents uncontrolled and all these type of things. That's nice, but it's not required, right? And frankly, from my viewpoint, this is just my personal opinion, that makes life harder, right? There's easier ways to do things, and especially now with software and all these type of things, right? Where you can have electronic signatures and auto revision management and notifications to people. But you have to have a good manual system before you put it in a software system. Because if you have a bad manual system, you're going to have a bad software system, right? It doesn't translate. Yeah. So migrating over to that type of system, you need to do the legwork first anyway. So you can't avoid it, right? Software is not going to save you on that side.
Well, I mean, I will say yes if it's not properly designed, Bryan, because the FDA says that if you have electronic documentation and you can prove that, for example, there is a username and password, indicating that only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, to say something, can access legally, they're authorized to access that record, that information, that's acceptable. That's fine.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, my point's kind of down another level, right? It's like if you have a bad procedure that doesn't explain properly what's happening, right? And you just throw that in your electronic system, right? You need to make sure they're all good before they go in, right?
Yeah, it's not going to work.
Yeah. What's interesting?
In that same place, Bryan, the subpart F of the regulation, records must be organized and easily retrievable. And all of the required records, for which you will need to read the regulation to understand which are the required records, basically everything related with the 7 principles, everything related with the food safety plan, those records must be kept at the facility all the time that the facility is in operations.
And you know what's interesting is as FDA is learning through FSMA how business operates in the manufacturing side, they're figuring stuff out relative to corporate versus plant. Because there's a lot of things that happen at corporate that then they tell the plants what to do. Now, those records still need to be available, right? But FDA has actually done what they refer to as tier 2 audits. And I haven't heard a whole lot from FDA on this, but they've actually done volunteer programs where they've gone to corporate to look at the documents at corporate that the plant uses to support their systems. So procurement, QA, legal, communications, operations, or all these different groups at corporate do a lot of stuff over the plants. And normally, right, as you saw in the past, Jose, when an auditor would say, well, okay, how do you approve your suppliers? A plant would go, well, that's all corporate, right? I can show you in the computer where they are, and I can show you the procedure they follow, but I can only buy things in the computer, and that's how I know it's approved. That used to be kind of the standard answer, right? Not good enough anymore. Not good enough.
Well, and you know what? Going to your point, let's dig a little bit deeper there. Let's say that you go through your hazard analysis for your ingredients, okay? And you identify, for my convenience right now, one ingredient that potentially might be received by us adulterated with a hazard that is controlled by my supplier, okay? Right. So for which, that is exactly the case for setting up a supply chain preventive control. Exactly the reason.
Exactly.
So in that case, the requirements are people need to approve suppliers before the product is received. That's exactly what is written in the regulation, okay?
Right.
So how do you approve a supplier based on FDA requirements? Because now this is the question. You need to look at the history of that company in compliance with the regulations. So you need to be looking at their inspections, if they have recalls, if they have refusals, if they have warning letters. That's the information that is required in order for you to approve a supplier under the FDA. Now, everybody that is following BRC, FSSC, SQF, and so on, which are the requirements there? Oh, you need to approve all of the suppliers, not only the ones that, there is a potential hazard that may cause illness or injury, and that hazard is controlled by your supplier. So you need to approve everyone. And the criteria to approve them is that they must be somehow GFSI too. So the requirements are 100% different.
So you need,
and again, if you want to have an approved supplier program, there are several things that you need to take into consideration when you are documenting that procedure and the records that you are going to keep.
Absolutely. So, a couple of comments here. Let's take a look at these, Jose.
Yep.
A user wrote here, right? In food safety, it's needed to walk the walk. Absolutely. There are a bunch of programs,
Oh,
but the operational pressure at one point puts the programs to the side and they keep breaking the rules. So, how people in the firm will be committed if they see double standards? Oh, such a problem, right? So, here's how I approach it and how I always train my quality managers, right? This goes back to the documentation, right? Why these things are so important to align. You have food safety information, food quality information, and operational information. Operational information goes to the plant manager. We don't have anything that we need to do with that. Quality information, yeah, we have complaint investigations and things like that, but no one's going to get sick or hurt, right? There's a business process we go through with quality. Food safety is easy, right? It's yes or no, black or white, good or bad. There is no negotiation, period. And your corporate quality team, or however your company is structured, all the way to the CEO, need to support that 100%. So in this example that the user here is talking about, if that deviation is associated with food safety, you need to fight to the death to not do that. Absolutely 100%, right?
and you know what else, Bryan? 3 words, which are very famous right now: food safety culture. Because there should not be
Exactly.
different standards. There should be only one, which is the culture of the company doing the things the right way. Period.
Right. Yeah. If your company motto is "We care about food safety and quality unless we have orders to meet," okay, Mr. CEO, would you like to sign off on that, please?
Yeah.
No. Another gentleman here. Good morning, Wallison. There's not that much difference between pharma and food, right? This goes back to ISO 9001. I worked in medical device for a few years. I know what you're talking about. Regarding GMPs, but the documentation, I believe it only takes commitment top to bottom. Do not release products if instances and deviations are not properly documented. Absolutely. I mean, in pharma, you have deviation logs, right? Everything that goes against your plan, you have to document and correct everything. And if you work in those fields, FDA loves those books, right? Because now they've got a pre-written audit where they can just go through and look at all your deviations. So be aware of that. Now, we'll bring this back up to 30,000 foot, Jose. So your quality system, right, and your document control and understanding the scope and creating a document control plan for that area. Oh my God, it's so important, right? And you have to have at your facility a pit bull guard dog person who manages that system, right? And nothing in that system goes in or out or changes or anything without that person touching it, right? Your document control administrator. Because if you have people just creating documents all over the place and throwing them into folders and stuff like that, boy, you have a problem. You have a huge problem, right? So within your document control procedures, it needs to be, here is our official template. This is what the documents look like. This is the font you will use. This is the typeset. This is how you will number it. This is how it is named, period. This is exactly
Period.
When you are ready, this goes to the document control administrator, who then gives it a number, a controlled number within your system. This then goes for draft review. This then goes for approval. Then it goes for distribution, and then people are trained in it, period, right? The second you venture out of that, oh my goodness, you're in trouble. But I tell you what, if you put the work in front, it's kind of like getting the airplane up to cruising altitude, right? 50% of the fuel is taken off and getting up to altitude. But once you're there, you're cruising.
Yep.
Right? Then it's just maintenance and maintaining. But yeah, getting there, if you don't know what you're doing, it's hard. But the other side of that, Jose, as an auditor, I'm sure you can appreciate this, right? If you come in and you see a system that's organized and consistent and controlled, and when you ask a question, they're like, oh, here, pop, 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 here it is. Would you like to see some forms we filled out? Yes, please give me 5 random forms. Here you go, pop, pop, pop. Would you like to go out on the floor and see people doing this? Yeah, I'd like to see that. Out you go, right? With every conversation you have as an auditor, your confidence in that plant goes up and up and up and up, right?
Of course.
And you, right, versus, hi, I would like to see your food safety plan. Oh, yeah, let me get that for you, right? Then they go on a document hunt for the next 30 minutes, right? As the auditor, you're like, really?
Hold on, Bryan. I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Let me share a real story from an audit. So I arrive, good morning, and whatever. I'm Jose, the audit, whatever. Sit down, go through the opening meeting. And then I said, okay, so let's start. Where is your policy statement? And the SQL practitioner said, my policy statement. Let me think.
Yes,
Really?
2.1.
Do we have a policy statement? That was the beginning of that audit.
And you're looking at your watch and saying, oh, this is going to be a long 3 days. Right?
Yes.
2.1, the first thing you should have read in the standard.
Yep.
Where is it? Oh my goodness. Yes. That tells you a lot as an auditor, doesn't it? Right. And then you start getting that picture. So having that consistency and having that policy and having those programs and systems in place, man. And I used to put in systems where this was all online and I could pull it up in the conference room. I didn't have carts of books. By the way, if you're still doing the carts and carts of books to try and overwhelm an auditor or FDA when they come in their plant, stop. Don't do that anymore. You're just asking for trouble, right? FDA could very well say, okay, all this document is about your food safety. Yes. Okay, I'm taking it all.
Yep.
I want you to photocopy everything and give me a copy.
Actually, you got a very good point. One of the topics that I have here as a guidance for our conversation today, 117.325 in the regulation for human food. Public disclosure, which is related with 21 CFR 20. So I'm not sure if everybody knows that every time that the FDA asks for a copy of the records, which they have that power because in order for you to register a company with the FDA, one of the things that you say in that registration is that you are going to be allowing the FDA to go into the facility whenever you are working, and also that all of the required records, the FDA has the right to ask you for a copy. If you don't sign that, you cannot open the company. Right. So any company that is open is because they already signed that and they need to understand this. So now when the FDA goes there and say, okay, I need a copy of your entire, I don't think that they're going to take that much, all of those records. But still, as soon as the case, whatever they are doing, whatever was the purpose of the inspection is done and is closed, automatically those records are subject to the Freedom of Information Act and they are available to the public right away.
Absolutely. Now you can put confidential and you can ask FDA to redact areas which may be proprietary to the business, but maybe they get things, maybe they don't. Hard to tell.
It's up to the, that's in 21 CFR 20. It's up to the FDA. I'm going to say, ask for confidentiality. They are going to read the documentation. If they think that it's confidential, fine. They are going to, black out or cross or whatever.
Right.
If they don't think that it's a confidential information, automatically that is released to the public. Right. But look at this one, Bryan. If the FDA accepts the confidentiality, there is another clause in 21 CFR 20 that says that after 10 years, those documents are going to be released, no matter what.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Wow.
He's there.
Wow. Now think, for protecting your business, imagine now that FDA, going back 10 years, has your HACCP plan that you gave them, right? Because they didn't have the ability to have it back then, unlike Food Safety Plan now. And you have all kinds of proprietary business information in that HACCP plan. So monitoring temperatures, processing controls, all kinds of things, right? Now you're handing your business to every competitor you have. Here's how we do it. Here's how we make product. Here's a nice flow diagram. Here's every pump, every valve, every control panel, all listed out for you.
Yes, exactly right.
Yep, you have to think strategically with this stuff. And your document control system is your main weapon for doing that and controlling this information and creating a system that is elegant and easy to use. So FDA understands it, inspectors understand it, investigators understand it, auditors understand it, and more importantly, the people in the plant use it to do their jobs, right? This is not something you write and put on a shelf. This needs to be how you run your business. And this is the framework that you hang that stuff in.
Bryan, look at this. There is nothing written about what I'm going to say right now. But if you, I mean, you and me have been involved in ISO and writing document, whatever, for so long that if you look at the basic structure of any documentation, any program, any system, I'm going to say, there are basically kind of three main tiers of documentation. You have the policies, very high level. Oh, we want to achieve prevention of adulteration and misbranding. We don't want to have our product to be adulterated with filth or hazard, just very high level.
Yes.
And then you have procedures and or work instructions. I will put work instructions under procedures where you have the what, how, when, and who. Now you are getting more detail on how things are going to be handled.
Yep.
And then the last tier are records. And you know why records are the last tiers? Is because if you don't have a procedure that says you need to use record 1, 2, 3 to record the data that I'm going to tell you in this procedure, you need to record this and this and this and this and this in that record. The procedure is the one instructing people to use X record, whatever is the name of that record, and populate this and this and this information. If you don't have that written, well, you're done. And that means that records are sons of procedures. You're going to have records and not having a written procedure. Not going to work.
No. And what you've nailed, 100% agree. A lot of times when I'm revising quality systems, I'll hold up a form and say, why do we do this? And they're like, show me the procedure on why we do this. And they're like, right? Okay. Right. You don't need this then. Archive it, get rid of it. So here's your document tiers, 100% agree. Here's how I differentiate procedures and work instructions. A procedure is something that affects more than one department head. So for example, a procedure on GMPs. Everybody in the plant has to agree that these are the GMPs, and everybody has to sign off, right? The operations manager, the maintenance manager, the quality manager, they all have to agree, yep, these are the rules. A work instruction is something for a person, right? So I always draw a little stick guy. And in plants, this is a huge issue I see a lot with documentation, is people think in terms of systems and not people. Here is the procedure for making cheese. No. This is receiving people doing things. This is cheese people doing things. This is packaging people doing things, shipping people doing things. There's no one person who does all those things. It's a handoff between different people. And so a work instruction is a person doing a task. And a good way to look at that is, if I have a question on this, so we'll say with milk receiving again, I look at a receiving log and I see warm temperatures for receipt. I'm going to go talk to a person and say, hey, Phil, I saw that you received the milk yesterday on this form. Yes. Tell me about these high temperatures. Why did we bring these in? And then you can have a discussion, right? That's the difference. And we get very nuanced with SSOPs and SOPs and technical documents and things like that. Waste of time. Policy, procedure, work instruction, recording form. That's all you need.
Yep. Clear. I mean, 100% with you.
Yep.
And actually, one thing that was done also by the regulation, Bryan, is to define, which is here, requirements for record retention, 117.315. And it says now it's the regulation telling people this. It's not SQF, it's not BRC, not it. Yeah. The regulation says you need to keep all the records required for at least 2 years.
Yes. And that is a perfect segue for the next topic, record retention. And I'm going to say something in record retention, Jose, that's going to make people's minds explode. People are not going to like this. So what is record retention? To your point, right? You need to have, for all the records in your company, a plan of how you store them, how you archive them, and importantly, how you destroy them. And you have to have this plan for the company. Have to. And you have to follow it. So if you have a written record retention procedure and you don't follow it, FDA or whoever, whatever regulatory agency, because now we got a bigger scope, right? Whatever regulatory agency comes in, their lawyers will have a field day. We'll say, okay, well, fine, you have a procedure, but you only started following it and shredding documents when you were in trouble. Stop, right? You lose all protection. You have to follow it, right? And there's specific rules, to your point, that we need to know. FDA, right? Hold your records for double the shelf life recommendation, right? Kosher, right? Kosher has specific rules in some cases. Organic, lots of rules around record retention, right? You need to understand all those and build those in. Now, here is the thing that people are going to be like, oh, emails. You need, right now, people are going, oh, right? You have to, right? Work with your IT group. This has to go all the way to the CEO because the CEO is going to fight it too. You have to say, we only retain our emails for a period of time. A year, probably too long. 6 months, probably too long. 3 months, right now people are starting to go, right? I need my emails, right? Nope. You have to destroy and have a retention program for emails, because the number one thing when there's an issue, right? Bluebell ice cream, FDA immediately, right? If they think there's a criminal case, park doctrine, guys, and the Department of Justice, if they think there's an issue, the first thing they're going to subpoena is all your emails.
Yes.
And they're going to go through them. Ask Mr. Cruz, the former CEO of Bluebell, why he's in trouble. It's his emails.
And actually, they can also check the indictment of the gentleman that went go to jail in the Prenup Corporation of America. Emails was part of the evidence.
Oh, absolutely. Where he was telling, so Stuart Parnell, where he was telling Mary Wilkerson, the quality manager, release that.
Yes.
Okay, sure, you had a positive result, but we retested and now it's negative. I ordered you to release it.
Yeah, retest another lot and then send the result to the customers.
Right.
No.
People died, and that's why they went to jail. Right.
Yeah.
So you need to have a record retention, right? Build two different procedures for this: a document control and record retention, because they're gonna be a little different, right? And you're gonna have to do a lot of lobbying within your company, right? Because there needs to be one record retention policy. Right. And so for our earlier example, you go and talk with the people responsible for OSHA. They have record retentions, right? That needs to be in there. So the scope here is much wider, right? Document control is the scope of your quality systems. Record control, right? All this archiving and all these record retention procedures is company, right? So your lawyers are going to have a big hand in this too. Right? It's a big thing, but you have to do it. You have to.
And you know, the other thing, Bryan, is that this record retention requirement, people need to I mean, we're talking most of the time about FDA, but let me just for a second, and I prepared something for these in my screen, which is could be that we may have someone that is right now hearing us talking about this. And if you guys are working with under FSIS, the USDA agency for meat and poultry and egg products and catfish and whatever, the regulations are different. And in that case, if I go to 417.5, which is a record retention for the HACCP program under FSIS, it says the establishment shall retain records required by paragraph A3 of this section as follows: for slaughter activities for at least 1 year, for refrigerated products at least 1 year, and for frozen or preserved or shelf stable for at least 2 years. So the record retention requirement between one regulation and a different one could be different. So my point is that go back to the laws and regulations applicable to your products and read what is there.
Scope.
Scope.
Contha here has a very good point, right? So about emails. So if people don't know who she is here in the chat, she's an amazing food safety professional with tons of expertise. So her opinion, you need to listen to what she says. So she's served as expert witnesses on several food litigations. The rule is to be careful about what is declared in emails. A subpoena can dig up anything in the best and tightest of companies. 100% agree. The rule I had in my crisis management procedures at the food companies I was at is if we declare a reportable food registry incident, emails stop. Everything is documented, but it's documented in the meetings. Those conversations, phone calls, all those type of things are documented as part of the work product associated with that investigation. Because to Contha's point, right? That could be subpoenaed. And if you have records of the meetings and the documentation and things like that, it's much more difficult to misinterpret what you did to fix that issue. So side bonus for crisis management recall is if you have a situation and you're the recall coordinator, you must have a scribe, a person taking notes of conversations at each location and recording out all the information. Absolutely critical once you get through that process.
Can you please take care of Cheryl's comment there, Bryan?
Oh, absolutely. So Cheryl, good question here. What's the separation between doc control and record retention, right? So document control is this giant universe of what we've been talking about. So it's everything within scope, how it's managed, how they're controlled, how they're released, how people are trained, how you name them, how you obsolete old documents, all these things, right? Record retention is bigger. And I build it into my quality system documentation because it's so important. And I give it a control number within the document system. But the record retention involves the entire company, right? The scope is everybody. It's just not the quality management system. It's the plants, it's corporate, it's legal, it's procurement, it's finance, it's the CEO, it's the board of directors, everybody. Everybody needs to follow record retention rules. Nobody's immune, right? So that's the difference,
yep.
Right? And so you can see how big those are. And so that's super important. Oh, Jose. And so as you can tell on this, right, I'm super passionate about this, right? Because getting this right is so important in companies, and it's often overlooked. So I wrote a book a couple of years ago, and an entire section, there's 4 sections in the book. And so here, we'll hold it up here for everybody. So here's the book. And within this book, which is on Amazon, I have 4 different sections in there on how to be a good manager and how to do these things. I wrote an entire section on quality systems, and within that is document control. Right. So I've given you a tiny little bit of what I talk about in there, because as you can tell, I got a lot of opinions on this, right? This is a subject that is really important to get right. Go through that, and hopefully you can avoid some of the grief and mistakes that I had to go through my career when I developed quality systems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. Very good point. And actually for record retention, and as you were mentioning, it's not just about food safety or food quality. You mentioned the emails of the company. How do you control that? Well, that's going to be part of the record retention policy.
Right. And IT departments can do that. So IT departments can go in and archive old emails, right? So you would do it just like hard copies, right? So in your inboxes are 3 months of emails. And there's a procedure that if there's something super, super important, that you can keep it. Anything between 3 and 6 months goes to the IT archive backup folders. Once it gets past 6 months, delete, gone.
Disappear. Yep.
Crazy, isn't it? Yes.
Okay. Suparna is asking you for the title of the book. Bryan, bring that book back into the screen.
So it's called The New Manager Mindset, and it's by me. It's available on Amazon. And let's see here. I can probably even give a link. Let's see here. It's interesting, Jose, when you do something like this. So I've got, let's see, so what's my rating? 33 ratings. I've got 4.5 stars. And there's one email, there's one review on there where the guy gave me a bad review. And oh God, that made me mad for so long, right? It's like, you're not talking about me. And then I finally realized it's like, no, that's not me, that's him. Right, that's, you know, you're always going to have the haters.
Bryan, you know what? I believe I already mentioned this story in one of our previous chats. So, I mean, some of you guys that are following us, you may already know because you heard it that I like mountain biking. So when I'm out, I'm drinking this beverage that is a protein beverage that is has a chocolate flavor. So one time that I was looking for it and I was not able to find it, I put my order online. And I was very curious to look at the stars, you know, the reviews of the drink. And you know what? I found one that gave the product 1 star. And that lady said, I have never, ever tried something that is as disgusting as this drink. And I love the drink. So you know what? We will never, ever be pleasing everybody. As long as our median in our statistical feedback, it's above certain limit that for us is going to be acceptable, we're fine,
Yeah.
Bryan.
Yep. If you're doing things right, you're always going to have your critics. Right? You'll always will. It's like on Facebook, right? You go and you see a movie or you rent it at home or whatever, and you watch and you're like, oh my God, that was an amazing movie. And then you post on Facebook and say, oh my goodness, I saw this amazing movie last night. Everybody needs to watch this. I will bet you $100 within 5 minutes, you have a comment in there where somebody says, I didn't like it. Right? It's just like, I stopped posting my movie preferences on Facebook because it's too unique, right? It's too much tied to that person. It's very, very hard to do. But so to close out our conversation, right? So document control, record retention, putting this in your quality systems, keeping other stuff out. I'm going to give everybody a final tip on where to start, Jose. You have to do, let's see if I can back up a little bit here. You have to do this. Okay, well, what the hell's that? You have to get your arms around all the documents. And believe you me, that's going to take some time because the supervisor's got some documents and there's some on a thumb drive and your lab manager created some stuff. And there's some stuff on the previous director's hard drive and God knows what, right? You have to take all of this stuff and put it in one place so you can see it all. And I can guarantee when you see it all, you're going to go, oh my God, that's way, way, way too much. And then the process of ruthlessly eliminating, right? So to your point, Jose, 2.1 SQF, management responsibility. Here's what the standard says. Where's my procedure on how we do that? Where's the recording form where I document our meetings? What's all this other crap? Gone. Yeah. Right? Because that stuff goes everywhere, right? Information should only be written down once, one place. If you're writing it down twice, you're wasting time.
Yep. And hey, Bryan, by the way, and I'm going to say this because I know that we need to cut this, right? But let me tell you one thing. In systems, you have the same thing twice. You know what is going to happen? For some reason, there is a deviation and you need to fix that. You're going to be fixing one, but not the other. As soon as you have an auditor that is lucky enough to see both of those documents, that auditor is going to find the difference. And now you don't have document control.
And now your credibility just went down a notch with the auditor. Right. So yes, time flies on these meetings. Thank you everybody for attending. This is a challenging subject, but if you do document control and record retention and these type of things correctly, and you put in the work and you get the plane up to cruising altitude, it's going to pay dividends for years and years and years. Absolutely. Right. So when SQF version 9 comes along, you're like, okay, I'll just change this and this and that. Okay, I'm done. Right. So do it, right? And don't think that you got to do it by yourself, right? There's experts and people out there who can help you who've done all this type of stuff, right? So don't try and sit in your office at the plant at 2 a.m. trying to rewrite all the documents by yourself, right? You're going to fail if you do that, right? It's not your system anyway. It's the facilities system. So don't forget that. Okay. Awesome conversation. Thank you, everybody. Again, amazing comments. I love it. Bryan, thank you for posting the FDA website for firm histories. Very good point there. Bryan used to work for FDA. He's an amazing resource as well. So thank you again, everybody. And we will be back here, right? So Jose, looks like you're going to be here next week.
Yes.
Fingers crossed. Yes, I love talking with Jose. So we will be back here next Friday in June 4th at 10 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Mountain, where I'm at. And don't forget, guys, Michelle Wood, my assistant, posts in LinkedIn the event. So now you can attend the event and you can then get notifications that it's coming. Because that's part of the problem with the live stream, right? It just pops up. It's like, oh, live stream, right? And people forget. She's also putting in there the link to the next week's event too, because a lot of times when these recordings go out, it's staggered, right? So maybe you're watching this recording next Tuesday and it's already passed, right? So you can watch it, which is great, but you need to know about the next one too. So definitely go to Michelle's page, get the event, and then you're set, right? And we have to do it every week because you just can't have a recurring one like Zoom. So you have to do it every week. So that's my admin stuff for today. So thank you again, Jose. Enjoy your weekend, my friend. Everybody else, please enjoy your weekends. It's going to be a beautiful one. Hopefully here in Colorado, maybe some rain, but we'll see. So thanks again, everybody. Great conversation.
A great day.